Welcome back, Watchmen. Let's analyze. The chart is still stained with blood, and yet a curious energy stirred beneath the surface during the final hour. A kinetic pulse moved through the shadows just before the gates were barred for the night. The early morning began with a flat defense just under the 64-cent line, holding there until a brief rally from the 63.5-cent mark preceded the dawn. This advance was swiftly repelled from the 65-cent defenses shortly thereafter, sending price back to seek reinforcements. A second bounce from the 63.5 mark occurred as the morning progressed, but the subsequent rejection from 64.5 signaled a weary decline into the opening bell. The market saw open at just under 64 cents, triggering a choppy and demoralizing retreat that lasted for most of the day. By mid-afternoon, the descent finally halted as price struck the day's low at the 60-cent floor. After a brief consolidation, high-volume momentum suddenly flooded the tape as the closing bell approached, fueling a sharp rally from under 61 cents to a close above the 62-cent mark. The company has added a new warrior to the fold, announcing the recruitment of heavyweight boxing sensation Moses Itama. While this PR failed to recognize a rally, the timing of the high-volume surge at the close remains unexplained. With no official filings to guide the way, the market is left to wonder if an invisible hand is preparing for the next round. The 60-cent line held, but the lack of volume suggests that the main army is still in retreat. We watch the shadows for the source of that final pulse. Now, before we move to the window today, I would like to address a recent accusation made towards me from the creator of the AI-generated false narrative lawsuit, along with one of his lackeys, that my rebuttal to their case was made of unfounded falsehoods. The legal experts they were communicating with have denied their case, as it was clearly a waste of their time, and I'm sure this was a major factor in angering them to the point of vulgarities shouted at the watchtower walls. I will not be spending too much time on this, since it is one, beneath me, and two, no longer in my hands, but I will expound on one aspect of my analysis that I should have the first time around. The claim that negative cash flow proves that revenue was quote-unquote never probable can be debunked by a simple breakdown of assets and the application of the actual mechanics of ASC 606. Under this rule, DVLT is legally required to recognize revenue when an obligation is met, such as delivering a license, regardless of when the cash is actually received. The company reported $30 million in related party receivables, which exactly matches the patent license revenue earned for the year. These receivables are verified components of the company's assets. BPM confirmed that these contracts satisfy the 606 model, which makes the narrative that the revenue is fictional mathematically false. Now we can move to the window and view the battlefield. Alright, we'll start on the daily. Let's see here. We're still under this 20-day MA. We did have a nice little red candle here, sending us further into the demand zone. We're going to actually change this demand zone the way it looks here when we zoom into the hourly, and I'll explain the mechanics behind that. But really, the only interesting thing that happened today was the rally at right before the close of the session. So there's not much to see here. We will go ahead and dive a little deeper. Let's go to the hourly. Now, okay, so these supply and demand zones are considered invalidated when they get a close below the halfway mark of the zone. This one is at 57.5. Okay, so all of this up here, all of this area that's already been traded inside of, is no longer part of the demand zone, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to mark this halfway point, 57.5. All right, and we're going to move this down to about here, the bottom of this candle. So if we get a close below this line here, we'll just erase this whole zone in its entirety. And so none of this is actually part of the demand zone anymore. Given that, we're going to mark this bullish engulfing right here as its own zone, right? So I'm going to take this and do a little something like this here. So now we'll see if price drops back down into here, we should get a reaction out of that. Now actually I'm going to go ahead, since this technically hasn't been tested, even though it has, I'm going to change it to being solid. So we'll see what tomorrow brings with as far as testing this this zone here. Now we can go ahead and dive a little bit deeper and honor the candle of the day, which is going to be this closing candle here. Take this one. This is the highest volume candle of the day, and it came out of nowhere. I was watching all day as everything just kept going down and down and down and down and down, and then all of a sudden this out of nowhere to close right above 62 cents. So I've been staring at it all day after the close, and that's just, I can't help but think that, you know, somebody knows something that we don't. Somebody's privy to some kind of information that we don't have yet. So yeah, this guy's the winner. Congratulations. And can go ahead and move this so we can back out and do the forecast. Alright, now, given the strength of that move and the creation of this new zone, I'm thinking that we are going to see some kind of retest of this zone. Again, I'm not sure if it's going to be strong enough to break this little high right here or this one, but it's possible that whatever caused this little rally right here is going to send us back up at least a little bit, and we might actually see a green day tomorrow. Now, on the other side of that, it is also very possible that this zone will be nothing, and we will dip right down into it and see something around what I said yesterday, which we almost got there. We got down to 60 cents. I called it 58 to 59. But it's very possible that we could dip down a little bit further and maybe even see something like this. You know, I don't think we're going to see too much of a downside today. We've been dropping on volume, and a lot of that volume was not, it was off exchange volume. I think like 60-something% of the volume today was off exchange. So it's not, you know, it's not a lot of retail driving price. The small sales that were on the tape were enough to drop it down. But then once it got down here, somebody said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and buy this and send us up right before the close. And that is going to close it out for the day. So we need to remember to smash that like button, ring the closing bell, go ahead and cast your vote in the community page for on the poll for next week's class, this weekend's class, and try to stay away from all the FUD that's out there. It's everywhere right now, and you know, a lot of it is, I get it, I understand. There's a lot of people that are down on their investment and they're just really looking for something to blame other than themselves. But when it comes down to it, you know, if you trade without stops and you trade based off of a tip that you saw on Reddit or anything like that, then I mean, this is what happens. You know, you gotta have a plan, you gotta have an entrance plan and an exit plan, and have the gumption to actually follow through with it when you go through with it. You know, set your orders beforehand, and then walk away. You know, and if you lose on a trade, then you move to the next one. If you win on a trade, then you move to the next one. All right, folks. With that, we're going to close it out, and until the end of all things, the Night Watch stands forever.